Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 57 of the Anatomy of Knitting podcast. My name is Erin, and I'm going to be your host. Today is January 29th, 2015, and I'm coming to you from the country of Ireland in the County Cork. And I have a big show for you today because it's been a few weeks since the last podcast because I have been sick and the boys have been sick and it's just been a big ball of sick, and I'll probably cough a few times during the episode. I can always kind of feel a tickle. I went to the doctor on Saturday and got a prescription for some antibiotics for pneumonia. So yeah, that was fun. It's fun being sick. So this is episode 57, and I've entitled it Episodes in Frustration for a fair amount of reasons. Thankfully, none of them have to do with my knitting. So, why don't we get started? I'm going to start with a new... I'm just having a complete brain fart. A new section in the podcast, and I'm just going to talk about my week in review, which doesn't really fit into any place other in the podcast. And I have a few things that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about. This most of these show notes I wrote prior to the week I was originally supposed to podcast, which I think was about 3 weeks ago now. My husband and I, so we live in Ireland. We're obviously not, or at least I'm not Irish, obviously, with my non-accent. And so it was part of living in Ireland is that you have to register with what's called the Garda, which is basically the police group, the police officers. That's what they call them here, Garda. So you have to register and you have to get what's called a GNIB card, which I think is a Garda National Immigrants Bureau, something like that. And you have to get this little card. And they have switched things up since we got our last card. And so you have to go in and you have to, reapply. So you have to bring your green card, or in my case, my husband's green card, our marriage certificate, passports, basically all of this documentation. Hello, Ari. You hear me talking, and so you always think you should come and see what's going on. So, the day I was supposed to originally podcast, I think I was healthy at that point, but our entire day was eaten up by going to attempt to get this card. To apply for it, we dropped the boys off at the creche, which is the daycare. It's what they call daycares here. And then we headed downtown to downtown Cork, and we got in line because that's what you got to do, is you got to sit and wait. And the office was supposed to open up at around 9:30. But they didn't, and somebody came out and they said, well, we're having computer problems. We don't know if they're going to come up or, if we'll even be able to take anybody today. So my husband and I stuck around and decided that we would stick around mainly because I also had an appointment to apply for my learner's permit, which is another exercise in frustration. But I'm going to stick with the GNIB story right now. So my husband told me, hey, I know you've got this appointment later for the driver's license bureau. Why don't you walk over and see if you could just do a walk-in appointment? So I said, okay, sure, fine. I'll go do that. So I did that and ended up getting seen within like 15 minutes. It was really, there was nobody there. It was awesome. That's not the frustrating part of the learner permit saga. Excuse me. So as I'm there, he texts me and he's like, okay, well, when do you think you're coming back? Because they're taking people now. And I said, well, I'm almost done, keep your panties on, basically. So I finish up. I head back over to the Garter station. They're literally, if I didn't have to wait at stoplights, it was like a literal 2-minute walk. So I go back to the Garter station, and we're next, and we go get seen. And apparently my husband had looked the night before to see what kind of documentation we needed to bring to reapply for the card, and he just had brought his green, his work permit. So she said, "You don't have anything that we need, and our computers aren't really working anyway, so why don't you go home and get the required document and then come back?" And so we decided to do that. And the office, it's like really cushy hours for this immigration office. They work from like 9:30 to noon, and then I want to say 2 until 4:30 or something. It would be the job that I would want, I think. So we came back, we got our stuff, we had lunch, and then we headed back downtown to see if we could apply for the card. And they never opened the office for the afternoon hours because I guess the computers just had taken a big, whatever. So that week it was, and we came back, it was like 4 when we came back to the house, and I just laid down because I was frustrated and tired and upset that my day off was not a day off. So we ended up going back the next Thursday, which was last week, and got everything taken care of. And now they've also changed it so they don't actually print the cards on site. You have to go back and pick the cards up. So 2 weeks after we successfully applied for our GNIB card, we have to go back and pick them up, which to me just sounds crazy, like a bad decision that you have to go pick it up, because I guess they batch print all in Dublin, because you're just creating more of a line and more of a wait for all the people who have to A, go and apply in the first place, and then B, have to come back and pick it up. But hey, I don't make the rules, I just have to jump through the hoops. So that's what we get to do. So the GNIB frustration there. In the last podcast at the end, the video that I showed you, the boys had just learned how to climb out of their toddler beds. And I just kind of wanted to update you all about that transition, because I know when in the abstract of that, when I thought about the boys having to make that transition, I was seriously terrified because I have two boys, two very active toddlers, and aren't they going to keep themselves awake? And this is going to be a horrible transition, and they're not going to nap forever. And it ended up being no drama at all. The one day that they've really missed their naps was the day that they had learned how to climb out of the bed. They didn't have a nap that day because they were just, I guess, too excited. And that's been the only day that they've skipped a nap. My sort of parenting philosophy is kind of fake it until you make it, and don't let them know that you're sweating. So I didn't make a big deal of it other than, hey, these are your big boy beds. You're growing up, you're getting to be a big boy, and I didn't let them show that I was seriously terrified about this transition, and they rolled with the punches, and they've learned how to deal with that now. We've had a few episodes of them falling out of their toddler bed, but they only have to fall maybe that much. It sounds worse than it is, and nobody's ever gotten really upset about falling out of bed. They've just gotten back up and gotten in bed and went back to sleep. So really, I think as long as you don't make a huge deal that you're terrified about it, your kids might not make a big deal about it either, and just roll with the punches. And it's been a really easy, I don't have any wood to knock on, knock on wood, transition for us. So, amen. And then the other thing that's happened since we've been here is we got a fair amount of snow one day. I mean, at least a fair amount for Ireland. It's also like Seattle in that they don't have the infrastructure to deal with snow like they do, say, on the East Coast of the United States, where 2 or 3 inches isn't a whole big deal. I think we got, in total, we got maybe an inch or 2, and it looked really pretty, and it came overnight. And then I thought, so the boys came downstairs. There's this really good picture that I took and posted on Instagram, and I'll put maybe here. So this house that we're staying in is 3 levels, and there's a landing that there's a window out front, and you can see the reflection of the window that's open right here. You can see that it's a windy day. And so they can look out that window that's on the first floor. And they were able to see the snow. And I thought, oh, well, let's have breakfast. Let's get some fuel in our bellies, and then we'll go outside. But by the time that we finished breakfast, it had already started raining, and then the snow was gone in about 3 or 4 hours. So it was very short-lived. The boys, unfortunately, didn't really get to play out in it. We did take their tricycles that they got during Christmas out the night before when it had started to snow. We took them out around the block a little bit, and they really enjoyed that until they got cold, and then they were done. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about in the week in review, that's almost done, is applying for my Irish driver's learner permit. So apparently here in Ireland, I can't just take my Washington state driver's license and hand it over and say, give me a driver's license. I've been driving for 21 years almost. Because I guess the thing is that because Ireland is part of the EU, and now that there's the EU has certain standards that every country and that has to go with their driver's license, and the United States doesn't. It's up to each state to determine what they test for during driver's tests. That's the reason I can't just take my U.S. driver's license and get an Irish driver's license. So I have to go through the whole rigmarole of getting my learner's permit again, and I have to take 12 hours of instruction, and then I have to take the actual driving test, and then I'll be able to have my driver's license. And then this is the thing that my husband is so pissed isn't the right word, but he's upset for not really any good reason about, is that we have to post this N placard on our car after we pass the driving test, because we're novice drivers. Even though we've both been driving for about 20 years, we're considered novice drivers. So the day that we had the GNIB fail, I ran over and applied for my learner's permit. And as part of applying for your learner's permit, you have to bring a whole bunch of different documentation as well. So I had to bring my U.S. passport. I had to bring proof of the PPSN number, which is basically like a social security number over here. So I brought that, proof of that. I had to bring, gosh, what else did I have to bring? They don't do any sort of eyesight test there. So if you wear glasses, you have to go to a doctor and have them, do the, can you tell me when you see my wiggly fingers, and read the chart on the wall, and excuse me. So I had to go do that. And the eyesight form is supposed to be dated within, I think, a month or 2. And the doctor wasn't used to writing 2015 on her form, so she had dated it, I I think I'd gone like January 7th or something. So she had dated it January 7th of 2014, a time when I was not in the country. There was something else. I can't remember what the other thing was, but it was like 6 forms of ID. And the thing that I got a nasty letter about is proof of address. And they said that you could bring a utility bill. And so the gas bill here for the house is under my name. And so I brought in the gas utility bill, and the person who was taking all of my documentation had folded it up so it was just like the letterhead and my address, and photocopied that. And apparently that wasn't good enough. So I got this letter, saying that I had to prove better than what I brought. So I sent them like 80 gazillion things in response. Because I was seriously, like, I brought exactly what they asked for, and through no fault of my own, the way that the guy instead of photocopying the actual bill, he folded it up. So through no fault of my own, I had to, send them proof again. I had to do that through the mail. It's very frustrating. When you jump through the hoops that they tell you to jump through, and then through no fault of your own, you have to jump through more hoops. It's very frustrating. So I have yet to get my learner's permit. Hopefully it's in the mail. Anyway, that's all the stuff I wanted to talk about. Although I technically should have called this week's in review. And we are 17 minutes into the podcast, and there is no knitting content yet. So let's take care of that. The first thing I would like to show you are some finished objects. Get them on. So these are the Foraging mitts. They are a pattern by a homespun house, and the designer's name is Molly. I knit this out of Sheepspot Sustainable Merino Fingering in, oh goodness, what's the colorway? Of course, now that I've put the knits on and I have to remember what colorway it is, I think it's like Cool Waters Run Deep. Something like that. Of course, now I can't turn my page in my show notes book. Still Waters Run Deep is the colorway name. And it's these beautiful colors here are not super accurate. But there's blues, there's a black, and there's purple. It's really pretty. And then there's some white. And the Foraging mitts are, of course, now that it's feather and fan, and then a stockinette, and then there's some ribbing. This was the first mitt. I ended up making a slight mistake in that I increased for the thumb gusset too much. So I ended up having like 12 stitches instead of 10 that I was supposed to for the thumb. So I just took care of that by decreasing a few times, and didn't turn out any worse for the wear. And this is a holy mitt. But I've taken these, I've worn them once because I didn't want to make them too used looking. I wore them once when the boys and I went to go to the grocery store, and they were really warm. I guess if you're experiencing like the Juno storm, these probably wouldn't be super ideal because of the feather and fan holiness, but I think they're a great transitional piece if for like maybe early fall, if you have a really harsh winter climate. And it does this really pretty spiral, there we go, spiral for the top of the mitten. And I apparently miscounted And so I thought I needed to increase here on the palm, and then after I knit like 2 or 3 rounds, discovered that no, I didn't really need to, and so I had to decrease. So that's another little error here. And then I repeated the 12 stitch error on my thumb over here as well. The colors that you see there are a little more accurate. It's very frustrating. I think I have to go back to recording with my little flip. I always had really good opportunities with color. It was really a lot more accurate with my flip than with this, but I can do close-ups with the computer versus I wasn't really able to do close-ups with the flip. So those are the Foraging mitts. Super pretty. And I have a fair amount of the yarn left over, and I just have to kind of decide what I'm going to do with it. I need to weigh it to see how much. I think I could probably get a second pair out of the yarn ball that's left over. I was thinking maybe like I don't think I could get a hat, but I honestly don't know how much. I don't know how much I have left. I haven't measured it. I've had a great experience with the sheep spot yarn. It's really warm. It's really nice to knit with. It's very squishy. Yeah, so I have nothing but great things to say about Sasha's yarn. I only wish I didn't have to spend a ton on shipping to get it over here. I'd be buying a lot more if I was living in the States. So there are the mitts. Super happy with those. And if I didn't have to turn pages, I would totally keep these on. And I think next, I'd like to do a pair of gloves. So, yeah. 2 thumbs up. Excuse me. The only also downside thing that I can't wear my wedding ring with those because I have a tall setting. So I've always been super nervous about wearing that. And then the other thing I have to show you, I apparently finished mid-row, so I should remedy that, is the Hopper cardigan. And this is a cardigan that's in Amy Christopher's book, New American Knits, Hopper cardigan. I am currently knitting this out of some yarn that I purchased here in Ireland. I purchased it in Galway when I went up for a weekend sewing day with the Modern Quilters of Ireland. I apparently need to do a cable, the last cable. I have worked on this a lot more than I had when the last time I spoke to you. I think I only had like the waist decreases done. Since then, I have not only done the waist increases, excuse me, but I have also knit. See, I measured it last night and it was 16 inches total. I'm going for 18 inches because I lengthened the point where the waist shaping is supposed to go to. I think you're supposed to knit like, and I'm throwing out, I don't even, I'm not going to look at the pattern, but I think you have to knit like 2 inches prior to starting the waist shaping, and I think I knit 4 or something like that. So I have to add 2 inches onto the amount that the pattern calls for. So I have the waist shaping sitting in the right spot for me. Go. Finish that little cable. So I have to go to 18 inches. So I'm about 2 inches away, and I think this ends up to being about 2 more cable repeats that I have to do. Thankfully, I got most of the row done before I had to put this down, before I went to bed last night, and I meant to do this before I started recording. Oh, here you can see how I knit. I tend to throw with my left hand, I taught myself, for those of you who are newer, I taught myself how to knit out of a book, and this was pre-YouTube era, so the way it was comfortable for me is to throw with my left hand. I get very odd looks when I go to knitting groups here, because it's just very different from what they do here. Oh, do I hear a kitty? No. Okay. Lola is outside, and the weather is very, it's windy, and then it gets sunny, and then it's rainy, but she wanted to go outside, so I let her outside. So here is all of the sweater body that I have knit. Show you, it's on a shorter circular needle, and this is not an accurate color. Let's see if I can get it to show up a little better. It's more of a limey appley green. Yeah, it's not going to show up very well. I think I'm like, let's see, how many ends? Oh, I guess I'm only 3 skeins into the body. Thought it was more than that. Anyway, the fun and exciting adventure that I had with this is that I had not miscrossed a cable, but I hadn't done, so this is like you do a cable row, and then you do 3 more rows of the cable repeat, and then you do another cable row. And I apparently had only done the purl row before I crossed the cable again down here. But I ended up being super brave, although not really, because there's only 8 stitches, and dropped down about 7 rows to fix the cable. And I did that because I had miscrossed every cable. I had to do that with every cable, so that was fun. And you can't really tell where the miscrossed cable was. There's no real tension issues. Maybe, yeah, not really. Thankfully. It took a lot of, my husband and I have been, so my husband just started watching Sherlock with me, and that's Benedict Cumberbatch, Martin Freeman version of Sherlock. And we watched the last, the 3rd episode of the 3rd series, and it took me the entire episode to fix all of the cables. So basically, nearly 2 hours, which sounds like a lot, but it didn't really feel like a lot, and I was watching the TV at the same time. So I have another 2 inches before I divide for the back and the 2 fronts, and that's going really well, other than the little hiccup that I went through. But it's a learning opportunity, and I thought about recording it, but I don't really have great equipment to get good close-ups of like my hands and what I would do. Basically, what I tried to do was drop down and just do the cable, because it's in that little cable pattern is 8 stitches, and I tried to just drop down the middle 4, but I couldn't get it to work, so I ended up just dropping down the whole 8 stitches, those 7 rows or so, and then just following along the cable chart, knitting each row with the loop of yarn that I had released when I dropped down. So it's a good way to get my feet wet with having to drop down and fix a cable without having too complicated a cable to do. So that was it was a good experience, and I'm not glad I messed up, but I'm glad for the learning opportunity. Yeah, the upper cardigan. That's it for the actual knitting that I have to talk about. I did want to talk about an event that I'm going to be going to. Excuse me. I am going to be attending the knitting and stitching show at the Olympia Centre in London. And you all have probably heard, I think Huxton Handmade has talked about the Knitting and Stitching Show, and I think there's another, I want to say maybe A Playful Day as well, has talked about the knitting and stitching shows that you can go to in London and all around England. There's also a knitting and stitching show here in Ireland, in Dublin, but it is in it's in October, and it was over Halloween this past year, and we were in the States for Halloween. The Knitting and Stitching Show. Here we go. So there are internet is slow. Looks like 4 different knitting and stitching shows that you can attend. The spring show is in Olympia, at the Olympia Centre in London. There we go. There's also in October at the Alexandra Palace in London. The one in Dublin, that's in November. Oh, this one's in the middle of November. Maybe I will attend this year. And then the other one was at the Harrogate Centre in Harrogate. I assume that's in England. And so I'm going to be in London from the 5th of March through the 8th of March. It's going to be fabulous because I'm going to be by myself, and I won't have to wake up for babies, and I won't have to feed babies, and I won't have to wipe any bottoms, and it's just going to be awesome. And I'm going to eat my body weight in sushi because there's not a lot of sushi here in Cork, and it takes a lot of effort to go downtown and go to the one place where you have to get very expensive sushi. And so I don't do it very often. So I ended up signing up for 6 classes. I'm going to be taking Machine Sew, a Lacy Shrug. I'm going to be doing pattern alterations for larger busts because I'm lucky enough to be in that group. I'm going to sew an infinity scarf. I'm going to make a thread catcher and pinned cushion. And then the one that I'm kind of excited about is design and needle felt a simple bird. So I'll be learning how to do needle felting. Oh, and then the last one is Japanese rice bags, which you just make a bag out of this out of this nice Japanese fabric. And so I'm planning on being there Friday and Saturday at the Knitting and Stitching Show. There should be about 200 vendors. So hopefully I will have lots of good things to show you from the show. And I've got my airplane ticket, I've got my show tickets, I've got a place to stay. I've been using Airbnb for the 2 mommy's trips that I've taken, the one to Galway and then the one to London. I've used Airbnb. And the Galway, the room that I got in Galway was nice, and obviously I haven't stayed in the London room that I've got, but Airbnb has been a pretty good way to find a place to stay for a decent amount of money. Instead of spending, gosh, I think I looked online to see how much like just a regular hotel room was for London for those days, and I think it was like 500 euros was the cheapest I could find. And Airbnb, I think I'm spending $330 for the let's see, I'm saying Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so 3 nights, which, it's London, so it's going to be expensive. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. If I have anybody who's going to be going to the show that watches the podcast, please let me know. I'd love to meet up. I was thinking about trying to find my pins that I have for the podcast. I don't have a lot left, I think. Excuse me. But I should have maybe 50. I got a whole bunch when I first got them. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm motivated enough to find them. They're somewhere in my sewing room. I do know that much. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about, I had posted to Instagram something. I think I had posted that I was like in the pharmacy picking up the meds for my pneumonia, and somebody asked me how I liked the Irish health system, and we had another experience this week of how different things are here versus how they are back in the States. And so Nathaniel on Saturday ended up developing this limp, and Saturday, and it happened after we had put him down for a nap. When he woke up for that evening, he refused to walk because I guess it was hurting him so much. And then as the days went on, it slowly got better. So Sunday he would kind of walk on it, but mostly preferred to be held. And then Monday he barely had the limp. And then Tuesday, when I actually had an appointment to go see a doctor, it was gone because, of course, I knew once I had called and got the appointment, he would be fine. So we went to go see the doctor, and she thinks it's just what's called an irritable hip, which apparently is fairly common in children after they've had a viral issue, like a viral infection. And basically the boys are constantly sick. We have maybe a week of healthy, non-snotty noses before we have the next snotty nose. So basically they just have upper respiratory infections nearly constantly here, which is hard. Part of me wishes I was still breastfeeding because, they'd be able to get some of my immunities. But yeah. Anywho, so we went there, and she said, I think it's just this irritable hip thing. It's resolved. It probably won't happen again. But to make sure it's not something that's more difficult. That's not the word. It's make sure it's not something more serious. He should get an X-ray and some blood work done. But the way things are done here is that there's no like outpatient place that I can go to. What I have to do is she writes out this letter, which is basically her assessment of the situation, and I have to go to the emergency room with him now and get this taken care of. We won't even be guaranteed that they will do the hip X-ray and blood work. We just go for their assessment. So basically what I think I need to do next time I have this concern is just forget about going to the doctor. Here, I just should go to the hospital and get him assessed there. Because if they need to do the any serious tests that they can't do at the office, then I have to go to the emergency room anyway. And that just seems to be weird that there's no sort of outpatient situation about outpatient X-ray or outpatient lab that I can go to. Maybe there is, and it just has such an astronomical wait, but by the time it would be our turn, it would be like 2 or 3 months down the road and like too late to get any information. I don't know. So yeah, we have to go do that still. Apparently this letter that she wrote is good for a week, so I have a week to get this done. It's really frustrating, like learning these things. It's like, I wish there was like a welcome book saying, hey, this is how you do things here. I did not get how to deal with the medical system here. Because I'm good about getting my way through the medical system back home because, I know the things to say. I know where to go. I know what to do. But here, it's just like, I'm like flying blind. I don't know. I mean, I know the words I need to say to get seen. But yeah, I don't know. That's been frustrating. But the healthcare we've received has all been very good. It's just learning the system now is different. And I'm curious how busy the going to the ER will be because, he's fine, Like, being seen in the it blows my mind that this is the fastest way to get it done, because he's fine. He's going to be in the triage list of the ER. He's going to be way down here, not up here to be seen. So, if we were in the US and we had to wait US hours to be seen, my guess is we would be waiting 6 to 8 hours. Just because he's fine. He doesn't have a gunshot wound. He's not bleeding profusely. He's not vomiting. All things that would get you seen faster. I don't know. I'm just learning a new system. Learning all the hoops that you have to jump through. That's been frustrating. The last thing I wanted to talk about was a very nice surprise this week. Some of you have messaged me about it. I had the lucky opportunity of being featured on the front page of Ravelry. And there we go. You can see myself and my husband on our wedding day with my purple veil, although it doesn't look very purple because the color here, it's not very great. So basically it was community eye candy. And there's a thread in Ravelry where people can nominate the most beautiful finished object they've seen on Ravelry. And I got this, my wedding shawl got nominated. And I guess Heather, who's Rainy Day Goods on Ravelry, wrote this article, and she said that the 3 veils and then the one in the middle is actually a dress. Those 3 finished objects that she saw, she always thought that she, those were the 3 ones that she had loved too. So they were all featured. Here's other ones that are featured on the eye candy one. Most beautiful finished objects on Ravelry, which I totally agree. So pretty. They're all so pretty. So this was a nice surprise to have. Let's see, I think this was Tuesday. My antibiotics were kicking in, and that's all I'm going to say about what I was doing at the time. And my husband has a friend, and she had emailed him, and he came up to me and said, and it just showed me the email, which had a screenshot of this, and I was floored, because it was really, and here we go, here's the sun. The sun is coming out, because the weather here is very schizophrenic. So that was a very exciting thing that happened to me this week. It capped off. It's been a fairly good week. I mean, I'm much better than I was. I'm not coughing every 30 seconds like I was, and I got to podcast this week. Oh! So I'm 43 minutes in. I should probably let you all go. I am on a search. The boys are really into Cars, the movie Cars. And I ended up getting some Matchbox versions of the die-cast Matchbox cars for the boys. And it's raining and it's sunny. Oh, jeez. It's so weird. And now I'm all blown out. Let's see if I can... Okay, whatever. There's seconds left. And so I'm going to go to the big toy store that takes a little bit of effort to get to and see if I can find some of the ones we're missing. We've got all of the important characters that they love, but we're missing like Sheriff and Flo and Lizzie and Red. And so I'm just going to go on a hunt for those today. And then maybe, yeah, because it's almost noon, so I'll go find myself some lunch too. Oh, maybe I can show you the actual color. Nope, still looks not right, but better. So that's the episode. I don't know what I'm going to put in as the little boy movie. I think There's a movie. It's going to be either reading books with them, and we've read these books so many times that they have them memorized, and so like I can read like 3/4 of the line and then have Malcolm tell me what the last word is. Excuse me. Or it's going to be a video I made during lunchtime last week. I think it's going to be the lunchtime video. Either way, it's really cute. So I hopefully will see you all next week when the boys are in the creche. And I want to say thank you. Just had this tickle. I want to say thank you to everyone who messaged me about the front page of Ravelry. And I should go because I'm coughing and you don't want to hear that. So I'll see you all next time. Bye. What are you doing? Are you dipping? Show me. Show me how you dip. What are you doing? Are you putting your milk on your berries? There he goes. He's dipping. Oh.